and welcome along to this episode of Voices of Fostering. And our voice of fostering today is Anne. Hello, Anne.
Hiya. Hello, Helen.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us, Anne. Now, let's get straight into it. You have been a foster carer for 20 years, is that right?
Yeah, 20 plus to be fair, because I was with a different agency before the agency I'm with now. So yeah, over 20 years.
Wow. So thinking back over 20 years ago, what was it that made you go for it, Anne? What was it that led you to fostering? It's sort of in your family, isn't it?
Yeah, so who started it off really was my partner's Barry's mother. So when the last child left home, she started to foster. So she was the first one to start doing it, but she didn't do it very long. Out of all of us, it didn't really suit her. So she did it for a couple of years. But by then, Barry's elder sister started to foster. So she's been doing it for 30 years. And so he's got 3 sisters who all foster differently, but the eldest one, Karen, started off first. So, and then she went on to adopt 3 of the children. So yes, she fostered for about 30 years, adopting 3. And then his middle sister, she is currently fostering too. So she's been doing it for over 20 years. And then the other sister, she fostered mother and babies for about 20 years. And she's retired now, but she works for the agency, sort of mentoring foster carers, predominantly sort of mother and baby. So it was them really who started it off, and it just sort of came really normal, just like a normal thing to do, because it was just so ingrained in the family.
Yeah.
And it still is, it still is.
So I hear that a lot, Anne, that it's sort of fostering is in families and then it spreads and then more and more people decide to do it because you're all inspired by each other. That must be amazing.
Yeah, I think so. And I've got 3 daughters, and it's not right at the moment for any one of the 3, but the 3 of them I can see the 3 of them doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my 3 daughters have said that, they are considering it, themselves.
Yeah, that must be really, really nice to know that something that you've done for so long has inspired them as well.
Yeah. They've all been brought up with it, you see. So they've sort of lived their life, living with foster children. And my grandchildren live here. So I live with my partner, Barry, my daughter. She's just 35. She's just moved home, but she's moving out again next year. But she's home at the moment. And then we built an extension onto my house. So we've got my daughter, her partner, and my 2 grandchildren living there. So it's sort of one big house, and there's just a living room door divides us really. So sometimes it's closed and sometimes it's open. But my 2 grandchildren have just been brought into fostering too.
Yeah.
So it's all of us.
And what sort of effect do you feel that has on your children and grandchildren? And do you feel that they almost grow up to be more understanding and empathetic?
I do. Sort of going back to my 2 grandchildren at the moment, they're just lovely kids. They're really lovely kids. All the teachers say, they're really sort of empathetic, they are. And but they've helped me more than they would know, because they're absolute icebreakers. When you've got children coming in, they get really, really excited. They're buzzing and they'll be telling everybody at school, we've got some new children coming or whatever. But the 2 children that I have at the moment, with my 2 grandchildren, they are together 24/7. They get on like a house on fire.
Yeah.
So, so one night I'll do the dinner. We all sit together, but then another night my daughter will do it. So we sort of take it in turns, and sort of going out days out. Sometimes I'll go out for the whole day with them, and then the following day my daughter will, or my partner will, or her partner will. So we sort of share the care. And I just find it easier, and And they're good role models for my children coming in.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it can be tough. If they've took a particular sort of a bond, I'm just thinking of one lad who left, and my grandson was particularly close to him. And my grandson found it really tough when he left.
Yeah.
You know.
And that is one thing that we hear a lot, Anne, is, you know, how people who are considering becoming foster carers, how will I let a child go? Now, I think you're really well placed to talk about this because you've been fostering for over 20 years. You've fostered over 90 children. What is it like when you have to let a child go? Can you just tell us about that?
It sort of depends on the circumstances on where they're going.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, the best circumstances ever is for them to go back home. You know, that's what we want. We want them to go back to mum, to dad, to family. So that's the best one. And that's always happy, you know, that's great. And moving on to adoption, that's great too. You know, you've got to look at the bigger picture, sort of, you know, we're sort of, Barry's like 67, I'm 65. You know, if they can sort of get adopted by a young couple who've got their whole lives ahead of them, do you know what I mean? And they're there for them, then that's what you want too. So as much as you miss them, you know you're doing it for the greater good, you know? And we've been short-term carers. So therefore, when children move on into long-term care, then it's pretty well vetted, you know, with the transition, how the transition works. You know, it's not sort of leave short term, go into long term, and you've got to be out by a certain date. It's not that way. It's sort of when the social services sort of come up with a long term family for that child, it's a good match, do you know? And that can take up to 2 years to find that couple. So whenever they move on, it's always for the better, for the good. We're always just a stopgap, you know, and I've always got that in my head.
Yeah, and as you say, you do have to be quite selfless about it. As you say, it's about them and it's for the greater good. But how do you look after yourself within that, though, Am?
I don't know. I've just found a way of doing it, I guess. And I suppose it depends because sometimes they'll move on, and 9 times out of 10 they'll keep in touch anyway.
Yeah.
So when children leave, I would never sort of say, I would never chase them up or contact them. And I will always tell them, look, I'm always here for you. You know where I am. You've got my address. You've got my telephone number. I'm here for you. But I won't be chasing that child because they need to then create their new relationships back with, say, parents that they've not lived with for, say, up to 2 years, or move on from foster care to adoption. And as settled as they have been with us, they've got to make those new connections and they've got to get on with, you know, their new life.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I have children coming back all the time and I speak to children all the time. I say children, I mean grown-ups now.
Yeah.
They're grown up.
Yeah.
You know, they're not kids anymore. I was speaking to a girl yesterday who left 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Anne. Do you ever find that a while later, you know, they might be processing what happened in my childhood, who looked after me, and you know, they reach out to you. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, it does. And yeah, they just phone up and say, do you remember when we went so and so, so and so? Where did we go? I took this one girl to France and she's, whereabout did we go? Because I want to go back. And she's got a boyfriend now. She wants to go back. So I told her where we went. And I've got 2 lads and they turn up on their motorbikes sort of at least once a month. Both of them do. I've gotten really nervous as I've gotten older with driving, so I tend to keep off motorways. So I'm not one for sort of, you know, going too far away from home anymore now. So they tend to come here. And I've got one lad who lives in London and he'll just knock the door and he's there, or another lad who come from Derbyshire and he was delivering staircases and he happened to be in the area, so he knocked the door.
Yeah.
So I get that quite a lot, to be fair. It's lovely. It is
Yeah.
nice.
Your network's
Yeah.
just become really big and they all, of course, remember you forever.
And also when they go on to long-term foster and even they're still kids, if I've got a nice relationship with the foster carer, which I always do anyway, if there's a milestone, the foster carer will let me know. So she'll say, oh, so and so's just got into this class, or so and so's just done this, or he's just got this award, and just sort of send me little photos and snippets, and just to let me know how they're doing, you know.
Yeah. Now, of course, Anne, you've had so many children through your door, and you mentioned before about things that can be an icebreaker. You've got animals, haven't you? You've got a cat and a dog, is that right? And do you find that they help?
They do. The dog we got from, it's a Romanian rescue, and we got the. I took 3 of my foster kids at the time to go and collect her, and they had a really strong bond. We call her Roma. Really strong bond with Roma, who's a big, energetic dog. We didn't realise she was going to grow as big as she did, but she's absolutely massive and really loud. And when the 3 kids moved on, Roma was bereft. She was just going around the bedrooms, like crying and crying. Even the dog, you don't realise how it affects everybody.
Yeah.
And then as we were walking Roma, she'd go mad if she saw a girl that looked like one of the girls that left.
Yeah.
She thought it was her, and she'd go crazy and jumping up and barking and all the rest of it. But yeah, so the dogs are a real icebreaker as well. And the little girl that I've got at the moment, she was absolutely petrified of dogs, which we didn't know when she came. But it was apparent that she really was, to the point where she didn't even want to cross a dog in the road. She really cried, really upset. And it was about a week or 2 before she sort of settled down with Roma. But no, obviously she loves Roma. Roma loves her, and she started to scream, and we were saying, look, Roma's come from a really sad background. You're going to upset her if you scream. And she says, oh, okay. So she stopped screaming, and, I don't know. But yeah, Roma's great. And the cat is a really laid back cat. It's got pulled around left, right, and centre if you don't keep an eye on her. But they're both absolutely fine with the cats and the dogs. But I mean, back in the day, we used to have pigs and we used to have chickens. We've had all sorts. Yeah. Yeah. It was just a madhouse.
Well, I think sometimes people think, if you have got a dog, particularly a big one like yours, would I be allowed to foster? But of course, every situation is assessed and dealt with differently, isn't it? Individually. And it doesn't rule you out, does it? They can definitely be an asset to your fostering journey, can't they?
Yeah, I think it's all part of it, isn't it, really? And it's just normal life. So why wouldn't you have a dog? Yeah, so we've got a lovely dog, absolutely mad, and a really big, fat, laid-back cat. And they can only be a good thing for children, can't they? I think.
Yeah.
They've got the little one out of her fear of dogs. She's not frightened of dogs anymore. We walk the dog, so it's a good excuse sometimes just to get the child out and do a long walk, because we've got to go and walk Roma, so the kids are out in the fresh air. So every weekend they have a long walk, through the fields. We go all over the place with the dog and the kids. And yeah, no, it's all good.
Oh, that's amazing. So yeah, you fostered over 90 children, Anne. When people find that out about you, what sort of reaction do you get?
Well, to be honest with you, I only found out myself a couple of weeks ago.
But you thought, only just counted them up?
I better find out, because just in case you might ask me that, because I asked my daughters, how many do you think we've had? And one said over 200. And then I was thinking more about 40. Honestly, I just didn't really realise.
That's so funny.
Such a lot.
It was like you were all taking bets. Like, I think about 40. Your daughter's like, no, about 200, Mum. 92, which is still an amazing number.
Yeah, but I was speaking to a foster care a couple of weeks ago, and she'd fostered 93, and I thought, dang.
She just pipped you. But yeah,
Yeah.
what do people in general, what's the reaction you get, when people find out that you've had so many children and young people in your care?
I don't really talk about it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's I'm quite, I don't really understand why I'm talking about it now, but I don't really bring it into conversations at all. And the girls got at the moment, they call us Nan and Grandad, because they want to be sort of just the same as everybody else,
Yeah.
do you know? And the little girl said to me, I don't want the teachers to know you're my foster carer, even though they do. Because I said, why? She said, well, because in the line, I don't want the teacher to say, there, to everybody else, there's your mum waiting for you, there's your dad, there's your mum, there's your granddad, there's your nan. And then when they come to me, they'll say, there's your foster carer. So she said, oh, and I said, well, of course you can call me Nan. And
Yeah.
because my grandkids live with me, they call me Nan all the time. It's just sort of normal and natural for them to call me Nan, So, and then when we're out, they call us Nan and Grandad. So I think new people that we meet, just assume that we're Nan and Grandad. And I don't tell them any differently.
Okay.
Because I don't want everybody to know my
Yeah.
business. So I don't tell anybody it's nobody's business, really.
Absolutely.
And so therefore the family that we have, it's just all taken for, we just all take it for granted and don't really talk about it, to be honest.
Okay.
I know that might sound a bit weird, but no, I don't.
Well, I'm really, really glad that you're talking to us about it today, Anne. We're absolutely made up because it's so lovely to hear your story. So, do you think you'll do this for another 20 years? What do you reckon?
Oh, God. Well, we've got 2 long-term children at the moment, so I'd say that's it now, obviously. Eldest is 10, youngest is 8. So, gosh, that's going to bring us into late 70s. So I'd say that's enough. But we have been saying that we're going to retire. For the last 10 years, we've been saying we're going to retire. And the 2 children that we've got at the moment, that we've now got long term, we were only going to ever have short term, and they were only going to be short term. But when it came to it, we just couldn't do it. Just couldn't say no.
Yeah.
They're just lovely kids, and they're just part of the family. And I don't know. It is what it is. They're here now, and we just love them, and they're so happy. So we're in it for the long haul. But having said that, when I have spoken to my daughters and I said, look, we're getting on. I said, if things start falling off me, dropping off me, we'll start to get poorly. One of you'll have to step in. They said, oh, no, Mum, we will, definitely, So I've sort of got that in the background as well.
Yeah.
So because these things, you've got to be honest about it, not getting any younger and getting older. And they're relatively, they're young children. But for us at the time and for them, they didn't want to move, and they did not want to go. And since they were told that they weren't going and, would you like to stay with Anne and Barry long term? Everything sort of changed, their behaviour. I've never had really problems with behaviour at home. They've always been great, but they have not really been settled at school. But since they've been told that they are staying with us, things have settled down 100% at school. So I'm hoping sort of moving forward that they'll only sort of settle down more, Fingers crossed. But, you never know. You never know. We'll just roll with it.
It's so lovely to hear, Anne, that you're having such a good experience with them, and that fostering is really spreading through your family, isn't it? And as you say, if there comes a time when you and Barry decide that you're going to retire, your children will carry it on.
Yeah, because they're my support now. I've got support from my family, and I've got support from my friends who are foster carers as well for the NFA. So we've got support from them, and you need it. We all need support, and Yeah, my family are great. Once I had two lads here, two siblings, and an older girl. And the two lads were here long term, and the older girl was only here for a couple of months, and then she was going back to family. It's a bit of a complicated story, anyway. But I've got a son, and he lives in Canada, and he was about 35 at the time, and he phoned me up. Anyway, cut a long story short, we had to leave everything and sort of get on the next plane over to Canada because he had a brain tumour. And I had to leave the two boys here and the girl. So 3 children here were left with my daughters, who just completely stepped in and looked after them for, I think we were gone about 5 weeks in Canada. And in that time, they transitioned the older girl back to her parents. So my girls had done that. She had a prom to go to, so my friend took her prom dress shopping. My son-in-law, who is son-in-law now but wasn't then, he took her to a prom. I think it was in Derbyshire somewhere, which is a long way from here. He got a fancy. He had the best car in the family, to be fair. So he took her to the prom. All the hair and makeup was done, and it was all sorted. The 2 boys were absolutely fine. They sort of looked. We didn't have the dog at the time. Looked after the cat and kept up at school. But I came home to everything was running as smoothly as a clockwork as to when I left it. You know, all through those times. And I mean, they were worried as well about their brother.
Yeah.
We were all worried sick. So they had the worry of him. And then the sudden responsibility of looking after 3 kids. And between them all, they done it perfectly, and it wasn't an issue, wasn't a problem.
Yeah. And did you
And I'm
feel
going
that
back 5
you were
years.
did you feel that you were supported quite well by your agency in that situation, Anne?
I did, yeah, because they understood.
Yeah.
You know, I kept them in the loop with absolutely everything that was going on as much as I could at the time. You know, because everything was up in the air and we didn't know what was going on. We knew it was bad when we had the phone call, but we didn't exactly know what was going on until we got there. Yeah, so, but no, the agency were great. And, but the whole thing really was done by my family, you know. They were the ones that sorted it out. But I mean, if I needed the agency, they knew. I mean, all my girls know my link workers, you know, they know them all well. They had all the telephone numbers, you know, I'm sure they kept in contact with each other. But it was all done while I was sort of, you know, being with my son in Canada.
Yeah.
Because these things happen, you know.
Life happens.
This is real life.
Absolutely.
And this is why you really need support.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of carers out there now. They're single carers, and 2 of my best friends are single carers. And hats off to them, because I'm not. You know, I've got my partner Barry, and I've got my support network around me. I've got my grandkids, I've got my dog, I've got the cat. I'm lucky enough to have a big garden for the children. So I consider myself really lucky, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I don't know how single carers do it. I really don't, because, you know, I'm lucky.
Oh, well, Anne, it's been so lovely to chat to you today and hear about your fostering family and your experiences. So best of luck with the future. Maybe we'll catch up again soon. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on and talking to us.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to find out more, head online and search National Fostering Group and make this the year you foster.